Hi, Dr. Perkins. For the prototyping assignment, I wanted to use Screencastify to go over my Google site created as part of the bike lane exercise of project-based learning. I wanted to use this tool to flesh out some of the details on the site and then describe the prototyping for the street that I live on, for adding a bike lane to the street that I live on. I set out to answer four questions at the beginning, and that was, what are the policies in Memphis about bike lanes? What's the primary use of the block that I live on? What kind of traffic comes through there, and how is it used both in our community and by people passing through our community? What's specific about the road? And there are a couple of things that I'll mention. And would the placement of a bike lane increase safety or decrease safety? So I first looked at the policies within Memphis, and it's interesting. Memphis has a fairly progressive approach to bike lanes and bike riding in general. The city maintains a number of resources online for guiding the design process and the policies associated with bike lanes and how to add them to the city's network, which is pictured here. Most of us know about this green line here that goes out to Shelby Farms, but it's actually a network that in just the 5 or 6 years that I've been here has emerged. I found out that Memphis is a bronze city for bike lanes, according to the American Bicycling or Cyclist Association. So it is making strides in the right direction and seems to have an openness, an understanding of how bike lanes fit into urban design. I then looked at my block to try and find out how the road was being used. And I live on this block of Tutwiler right here. That is my house. And it's an odd block because Tutwiler actually comes up this way, makes a right down this way, which is Stonewall, and then picks back up here and carries into downtown right near St. Jude's, where it ends at Danny Thomas Boulevard. So our road or avenue and the road behind us are not they're not used for through traffic very often because the main thoroughfare right here, North Watkins, and down below North Parkway and up above Jackson Avenue is not reachable using traffic lights by passing through our block going this way. And it's not within the normal flow of traffic to make a right here and access North Watkins that way. Most people continue on to Faxton and Jackson Avenue and North Parkway traffic, basically, unless they need to be on our block for a specific reason, such as a delivery or to visit a resident, simply doesn't use the 1400 block of Tutwiler. So we are basically a residential-only street with very little exception. And I used cameras on my house to clock how much traffic actually went on our street during a daylight time. And it's fewer than 100 cars pass down our street, which, just to give you an idea, that's fewer than 100 cars, not just during the daytime, but around the clock. It's a little bit higher actually at night as people are coming home, and pre-sunrise as people are leaving. But anyway, to give you an idea of how small that number is, the Tennessee Department of Transportation estimates that traffic along this part of North Watkins is about 8,800 cars in a 24-hour period. In North Parkway, about 14,000. I'm sorry, Jackson Avenue, about 14,000. In North Parkway, in the same general range. So we don't have a problem with traffic density. It's a long way of getting there, but we don't have a problem with traffic density. That does matter because of some of the details about our block. So one of the details about our block is that it's a relatively short block. But it links down as you move eastward. It ultimately will link you to the Greenway and to some trails that exist in our neighborhood. So it's only about 2/10 of a mile long, which also is one reason people don't use it. It's bookended by two other streets, so it's not a clean thoroughfare. And it is relatively narrow in that it is a split road with a median or neutral ground area. The width of the lanes are about 23 feet wide. The median itself is about 16 feet wide. And as you can see here, people park on the road, and this is not because it's not because they like parking on the road. Many of the houses along here, well, not many, but not all of them have driveways. So consequently, a number of people have to park on the road, and so the lane is further shortened on both sides, as you can see, by parked cars. And then lastly, there is this feature here, a roundabout that's halfway down the block that allows traffic to come down and turn around to access the homes on each side of the neutral ground or middle ground. So it's not marked. So I've seen strange things happen here. Not anything too serious because we don't have a lot of traffic, but there's no clear way to know which way to enter or exit what is functionally a roundabout here, designed to give people access. So my belief is that the bike path would actually improve safety on the road if done correctly, and I'll come to the findings in a moment. Because we already have this narrowed road, the road is used by bike traffic. For one thing, it's used by me. I live on there and I ride bikes, but I see bike traffic pretty regularly going from downtown up Tutwiler, across North Watkins, and down our road to get to the eastern part of the city where the trails, where the Green Line and other things are. And I also believe if we put the bike lane in correctly, it would make sense to mark this roundabout in order to improve safety of its use. So, and I think this would also, what I'm going to propose would also limit the use of the presence of any traffic traveling above the speed limit, and I'll show you why here. So I thought about a number of things, and this is a very good drawing here of what our road would look like. There's no middle ground, but you get the idea. We don't really have room to run a bike lane right here. That was the first thought, and that's the normal thought, right? You run a bike lane along the curb. Well, we have two problems. We can't run it along the curve, first off, and because there are cars there, and running it beside cars. If this were a wide road, we could run it right here and leave space, but you don't want to do that in this case. As you can see, here's an open car door, and one of the most common accidents for cyclists is to hit the car. Now, one thought was we could put these are called sharrows. They are indicators, highway indicators that are there to let people know that the lane is shared by motorized and non-motorized traffic, by bicycles and vehicles. So first, if you can't put a bike lane there, then tendency is to try and put a bike lane to the right, as a little bit to the right, and have the sharrow there, maybe causing bike traffic to be a little bit more out of the main lane of traffic. But that's a bad idea, because if cyclists follow that, then cars are constantly trying to move around them. There's not enough room to pass here, and which means that the car would have to go over or onto the middle ground in our case, and drivers simply aren't going to do that. So in our case, the idea would be to place the Sharrow in the middle. The prototype would call for placing the Sharrow in the middle and making both lanes across the medians, across the middle ground or neutral ground, make them shared access use, so bicycles and motorized vehicles. This would allow bikes to command the lane, and under Tennessee law, if a bicyclist has the same right to a lane that a motorist does, but without special markings, very few cyclists want to press that issue for obvious reasons. But with the marking, it's been shown that this improves safety in studies. And further, this is a design that I've found for Sharrows that incorporate roundabouts. And though our road would not have this exit to the right or exit to the left, so it's not a true roundabout. Well, I mean, I would argue it's a pure roundabout in that you can only go around it. You can't exit off of it except east and west. But this would slow traffic down. It would also add direction and right of way with yield signs for people using the roundabout, maybe to change directions, maybe to get to their house, whatever the case is. You're slowing down traffic and you're providing directions and yield signs to give people ideas about what traffic flow takes precedent over what other traffic flow. So I think the prototype started out looking for a traditional bike lane. We moved to Sharrows, and the idea that the Sharrows should be in the middle of our road, particularly given that we have this this middle ground that does a neutral ground that doesn't really allow for cars to, it doesn't allow any wiggle room for people in cars. And that in general, like I said before, is not a positive because it ends up cars trying to squeeze by cyclists, and on more than one occasion that has resulted in accidents. So we moved from this to putting them in the middle, and then as part of the overall design to add directional indicators to the roundabout that's in the middle of the block and yield signs to improve the flow of traffic. So that's my prototype, and the tool I used was Screencastify. I hope I have that name right. By the way, I love this tool. It's an excellent tool, and I think I will be using it particularly for some of my, not exclusively, but for some of my online classes, like you've used it with us. I can see that as being a good way to highlight certain concepts, certain subject matter, maybe even in helping to engage students around project-based learning in-person and remote classes, so that they can use this tool to present their results. So anyway, very good tool, and I've enjoyed this part and have, based on the tools I've used, found a lot of options for how I build out